Hello, everybody, and welcome to Action Sports Jax Primetime. Let the offseason begin. No mini camps, no rookie camps, no organized team activities, but we are organized as we can be, minus maybe a haircut. Ready to look at this football team that, according to the NFL, will be on the field this fall. I'm Brent Martineau. He's Dan Hicken.
Yeah, schedule due out this week. So tonight we thought we'd sort of take a peek at what we are looking at with this football team this upcoming season. So much of it depends on the quarterback that you already know. The Jaguars, again, showing a 2020 commitment to Minshew this week. But wait, there's more.
The club said no to a fifth-year option for Leonard Fournette, which in essence makes this a contract year for number 27. That's no surprise, especially with the new CBA that would guarantee that fifth year, but adds to a troubling trend for the Jags that has been well documented, and probably the reason why this team has frankly been, well, not very good for quite some time. Fournette will take his place in a long line of not so good, and that's putting it nicely, first-round picks for the Jacksonville Jaguars. These guys are top 10 picks, Dan.
Yeah, let's take our medicine and review. Remember Blaine Gabbert? They traded up to get him with the 10th pick. Not
work.
So much. That didn't work. The guy the next year, what did you get here, 2012 or 2013?
Me?
Yeah.
2008.
Oh, okay.
So I saw all these guys.
You saw all these guys.
Yes.
Right.
Justin Blackmon, by the way, was a very good football player. So from a
Yes.
football standpoint, it was a good pick.
Yes.
But he then had problems, is out of the league, and his problems, of course, well documented. Dan.
Then
I'm standing in front of maybe the biggest bust of all. Really. This guy didn't get anything done on the field.
Well, the problem is it's arguable who the biggest bust of all, and we have a lot of options.
And it's left tackle and not quarterback.
But. Yeah, but Luke Jokel was never a great football player, so that didn't work out so well. And then came what?
BB5. See, this is what BB5, because it's the quarterback, because they gave him an extra contract as well, becomes in that conversation of biggest bust. But he did lead them to an AFC championship as well. Did some good things, just not enough of them.
Yeah, and of course, then came some good football players who, again, aren't with the team anymore. Dante Fowler Jr. is a pretty good football player, right? He had 11 sacks last year for the Rams.
Atlanta just gave him $16 million a year, Dan, and nobody's giving Yannick Ngakoue or Jadeveon Clowney any of that.
So try to figure that out. Jalen Ramsey, well, we know his story, and now Leonard Fournette. Gang.
You know what the best thing about all this is?
What?
That the Jaguars got 2 more first-round picks for Jalen Ramsey.
And by the way, notice where they were picked. 10, 5, 2, 3, 3, 5, 4. Oh, my goodness. Now, look, let's show you something else. Only 3 Jaguars since 2003 received second contracts.
Yeah,
Alu, Lewis, Bortles weren't exactly perennial all-stars. Think about that, Brent, for just a second. Only 3 guys since 2003 got second contracts.
Dan, that's what we would call a systemic problem. I mean, that's unbelievable, really. Yeah. That means Leonard Fournette will be lucky number 12, the 12th first-round pick of the Jags, who won't be around for a second deal. The idea is to draft well, develop, and then pay the guys, right? Yeah. Only the lack of great QB play trumps this for reasons why the Jags have been so bad the last 2 decades. And, you know, you got to develop them, and you got to pay them, and you got to keep them.
And then Jalen, of course, no longer with the Jags, but at least the team got great value, right, for the quarterback. 2 firsts and a fourth. It depends how Chason and the other 2 potential picks pan out. But there was some value against just letting guys walk for different reasons.
Yeah. Back to 2020 and the upcoming season, right, Dan? Virtual training is underway.
Yeah, it is.
Hope you're participating.
The team and all NFL teams, quite an undertaking, making sure that all the players had places and weights to get their work in.
Yeah, the NFL allowed for some of that. The man overseeing it all is former Jags player Tom Myslinski, team's strength and conditioning coach. We caught up with Tom to discuss the challenges without an off-season conditioning program for the football team.
The athlete has to really absorb a lot of responsibility this year. Traditionally, we would say that the athlete has to meet you 50-50, but this year the athlete's going to have to meet you 90-10. So to me, the athletes have some challenge. They really have to become a student of their sport. That's going to be really, really important. And then also they're going to have to be accountable and take ownership of their journey. You know, that's really important. And, you know, they have to be pro athletes, you know, and to me, it's a really good time for guys that maybe be bubble guys to get ahead. I always say it's the rule of thirds. A third of the guys are going to be great prepared. A third of the guys are in the middle. Then the other third didn't do a whole heck of a lot. So, you know, it's a good opportunity for a lot of guys to possibly make a team.
You know, you mentioned a rule of thirds. A third of the roster, as you look at your 90-man roster, rookies, undrafted free agents, 12 draft picks. how much of a challenge is that? Guys that are trying to learn how to be pros, trying to adapt and acclimate, and they're not even here in Jacksonville yet.
Well, that's the hard part. You really got to make sure they had a solid, college program, and that they really learn and pay attention from their strength and conditioning coaches, because that's really going to carry them over till here. Because especially with our virtual training program, we don't have any, contact with them, and so it's hard. It makes it really hard. And so, I'm sure I'm as itchy as they are to get going, but unfortunately, we're not allowed to do that right now.
How many guys took advantage of, or do you even know this, how many guys took advantage of being able to get equipment sent to their home? I think the NFL gave a stipend out for players. Did you get a lot of recipients on that, a lot of participation?
Yeah, we did. And you know what? We're really lucky. We have a good amount of guys have access to a facility on a limited basis. A lot of, surprisingly, a lot of our guys are, have a garage gym to some extent, or are putting one together. And then there's other guys that are just making do with what they have. But you know what? I think it was a real positive knowing that how many guys actually had access to equipment. So it's like I tell them, I said, hey, you might come back to camp maybe a little bit weaker, but nobody should be unfit because everybody has a place to run.
College coaches have been saying in the last week or so, they feel like they need 6 to 8 weeks before they could play a game and have guys back in. They have to assume that they haven't done enough to be in great shape and then install and all those kind of things, put pads on. Do you have a thought process on that? Does that sound right? An 8-week period to feel comfortable before the season would start and these guys would be ready to go play a football game?
Well, you know what? To me, this is how I look at it. There's 3 levels of kind of adaptation that they have to make. So, number one, especially in Jacksonville, a big adaptation they're going to have to make is heat adaptation. So that's important. The second adaptation is they're going to have to get used to loading again. So that eccentric load, which is important. And the third one is going to be that contact adaptation. So I don't really know what the NFL is going to give us, but I know those are 3 things that we're going to have to prepare our guys for when they come back. And whether it's 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever the NFL decides, I'm sure that we'll be meeting with the coaches on a daily basis and making sure that we're really integrating and interfacing the tactics of football into what we're doing, because the tactics of football change every 45 seconds. It's the greatest game in the world, and really strategies and tactics rule football. So it's important that we're going to be able to have to intertwine that with the conditioning that we do.
Milo Tomaszynski, Jags Strength and Conditioning coach, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for taking some time. Be well, best to your family. Can't wait to see you back on the football field soon.
All right, Brent. Sounds great. Thanks.
Yeah, Milo's been offering some stay healthy tips, too, on Jaguars.com. So good guy to learn from, no doubt about it.
Hey, Brent, the NFL schedules come out later this week, right?
It's
Thursday,
like a holiday for us.
Which is a big deal. And we're looking at the road schedule, but we should mention that it looks like those London games will probably be off. Everybody's been saying that. Now there's a report across the pond in the Daily Mail saying that Tottenham's going to lose their 2 games and Wembley would lose their 2, which would be the Jaguars game. So that doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Just can't imagine they can ensure that they'll be able to play those games, all the international games, not just the London ones, but in Mexico City, everywhere else. So let's take a look at the road, right?
Yeah.
Those first 3 opponents, Baltimore, Green Bay, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Tough ones.
Well,
I mean, how do you even think the Jags could win, especially on the road against teams like that?
Yeah, they all have Super Bowl aspirations. And then, of course, the ever-popular trip out west. That hasn't gone well ever for the Jaguars.
Could be playing a rookie quarterback, but it's a pretty solid football team, and out west is not.
Keep in mind, though, the chances are you'll see these games early because I think they're going to push the divisional games to later in the year just in case.
Now, I will say this. I've heard conflicting reports on that because they're afraid, what if they lose some of the games at the back end?
Also true.
If the coronavirus were to come back.
Right.
So it really depends how you view it. We'll see what happens on Thursday night. But if you do look at, you got the Bengals in there.
Find me a win.
Well, the Bengals.
Thank you.
I've been really surprised that the Bengals they're like a favorite.
Yeah.
Like a Vegas favorite already?
Yes.
Over the Jags?
Over Jacksonville,
and
yes.
I actually like the Jags roster better than that. But then you do have Tennessee, Houston, and Indy. The good news about the AFC South.
Tennessee.
Yeah, the good news about the AFC South, nobody ran away from them in the offseason.
No.
But at the same time.
They didn't have draft picks.
But at the same time, they're all better.
Yes.
Yes. Now, Indianapolis, you can make the case. If Phillip Rivers is good, well, they could be really good.
Yeah. We'll keep waiting for Indy to take off, and yet Tennessee and Houston and Jacksonville in 17 seem to have done better, but we shall see.
Some good road trips, by the way, including Lambeau Field.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see what time of year that is. And, of course, it looks like the Jags will have 8 home games this year during the regular season because of the lack of London. We'll see later this week. Action Sports Jax Primetime.
Saturday at 10:30 on Fox 30.